Hi, everyone. Good morning. And I was given a wonderful topic. And thank you, Joel from HPE. That was a great session to follow up. And making zero trust architecture a reality, right? So this is a very, very important and a very interesting topic. And zero trust came about. And people think that zero trust is something like a product. It's not. Zero trust is a concept, right? Created by a Forrester analyst by the name of John Kinterwag, who he thought of a process that in 2010, where he could think about saying that why should, we don't trust as human to each other so easily, but why should computers trust each other? And that is a very, very big question to think about. And that is how zero trust as a concept came about. It is not one product, one technology, but it is more about a journey of data security. How do you learn from things? How do you stop WikiLeaks from happening again? There was a whole company created because one person had complete access to all the data. So he copied everything from his company and moved outside and called it as WikiLeaks. So how do we prevent such things? And how do we move forward in terms of a safe and a secure environment? So that is fundamentally zero trust. And how do we move forward and making it a reality? Let's go ahead. And I'm Sathish Murthy here from Cohesity, and I'll be walking you through making a zero trust architecture a reality, right? So first of all, I want to say I'm from Cohesity, and who is Cohesity? So if you're hearing Cohesity for the first time, Cohesity is a company headquartered in San Jose in California, in the USA. And this company is focused on redefining data management, right? Our focus is about data protection, NAS, which is file servers, objects, cloud, and data analytics. That's our full focus today. And the company was founded in 2013 by a gentleman, Dr. Mohit Aron, right? Aron has a very unique pedigree. He started a company by the name of Nutanix, and he was rightfully called the father of hyperconvergence. And prior to that, he was the earliest developer of Google File System, right? Very, very unique pedigree. The company is focused on majority of our customers being in enterprise companies because they have massive amount of data and they have more challenges than any other customer would have. The top tier investors into Cohesity are Sequoia, DFJ, SoftBank, Amazon, Cisco, Google Ventures, and of course, HPE, just you heard from Joel earlier, right? So we are part of the HPE portfolio as well. We are part of the Gartner's Magic Quadrant as a leader. We are in the Forrester as a leader from the analyst firm. We are as the CNBC's top disruptive companies on the planet. With that, let's get into what the whole topic is about, making sure that the zero trust is a reality. Now, that zero trust concept, which I explained to you earlier, brings about the first thought, how about ransomware? Ransomware is a very, very vast topic today, right? It is a very unique business, which we are not in there, right? But the interesting concept here, a simple way to think about, they send you a bug through any means that can possible, attack your computer systems, attack your storage, attack your technology that you might have, and then ask you for money. Most likely, they would ask you for Bitcoin or whatever coins that you can think about in a cyber attack and make your data very, very vulnerable. They got multiple types of attack. They got crypto attack, they got locker attack. It depends on how they go ahead and attack, but they seriously do the damage. And you can think about, hey, is my country safe? There's not a single country safe today because ransomware is everywhere, right? You can think about some of the sophisticated attacks on colonial pipelines in the USA. You can think about attacks on Garmin. You can think about massive attacks in Honda and Toyota. So they can stall a production plant today or tomorrow and can last for 1 week to 2 weeks. Now, how do we protect our data against these attacks? Is Philippines safe from this? No. If you look at the recent study, 69% of the customers, right, in a nice way or not in a nice hidden way, that they pay the ransom, right? 69% of the customer pay some ransom in some way or other. And an average ransomware that they pay out in the Philippines as of last year is about $1.6 million. Now, If you look at such scenarios from IT, that there are so many people in this call, you're all trained in IT. Just think about wearing an IT hat. You're always trained for last 20, 30 years about different challenges that we may see in different environments. People are always trained for deletion of files. Hey, if I have a deletion, how can I recover that? If I have a VM corruption that our gentleman earlier spoke about, how can I recover from that? How can I recover from storage volume corruption? You have disaster recovery and business continuity and things like that. You have storage array corruption. How do I protect my data against that? You have application rollback or a blue screen of death. How do I protect my data against that? You're always trained according to your history against all of these challenges in terms of recovering. Deletion happens very, very high probability, right? VM corruption happens with medium probability. Storage array corruption may be a low, but it can have a severe hit. All of these, we are trained. We have peer sync from HPE. We have SRDF. We have mirror replication. We have peer view. There are so many companies having all these technologies, right? Just think about it. Very similar. Unfortunately, I have to collaborate some health status today, right? Very similar to the COVID. Most governments were unprepared. Very similar to that. A large-scale malware attack or a large-scale attack by ransomware, most companies are completely underprepared. I repeat, very similar to COVID wave. Unfortunately, we have to compare that way. Most companies are underprepared against ransomware attack. They all talk about it, but okay, until it doesn't affect me, I don't care. That has to change. The mindset has to be that let me put forward something that I'm going to learn new, right? Every doctors were trained for so many things, from fever to cough to surgery and everything, but they were underprepared for COVID. Very similar is our status today. And this ransomware is on a rampage, right? We have different waves of ransomware, very similar to the COVID wave, if you may call it. And you can see the first wave of ransomware affect production data. The second wave of ransomware destroy the backup. The third wave of ransomware steals your data. Now, are you prepared? Are you protected against ransomware 1.0, ransomware 2.0, ransomware 3.0? Now, that is a question that you got to answer to your business, because Cohesity terms this as a blast radius that basically reverberates inside your organization. Is your production data protected? Is your backup protected? Is your data completely protected of stealing or exfiltration? And that is something that I want to discuss today with you in terms of making your data safe. Ransomware and breach by the numbers. I just want to bring up all of these. You can see 81% of the customers who are involved today are having exfiltration threat. It is not a ransomware threat. Exfiltration means they steal your data and ask you for money. If you don't provide, I will blackmail so that you better pay me. Otherwise, it will be on the public internet. 4.24 million is the average cost globally. But you can think about Philippines on an average across ASEAN, it is 2 times. It is $1.6 million Philippine companies pay today. And that is serious impact. And if you look at what we heard from you as customers, we heard globally that customers want to detect ransomware much, much earlier. They want to know, how can I collaborate? How can my company be part of the data defense in-depth strategy so that we can take actions together, right? This is a serious thing that we learned across from different customers globally. Now let's see how Cohesity protects and prevents and help you against ransomware. Most of the ransomware comes to you not by your network. A lot of companies think about, hey, my ransomware will come through my network. Of course, they would come through your network, right? But they do not come as a normal person that would come inside a shopping mall or your office entrance. Most of the entrance that happens or the threats that happens, they completely transform as a normal person. The data that comes to you appear as normal data. So a ransomware does not appear as a ransomware because you would stop them. If I say, hey, today I'm a bad guy, you will stop me in front of your company or your front of your house. If I say I am a good guy and I come inside and then turn bad, nobody can stop it. And that is exactly what ransomware does. Ransomware comes in through emails. Most likely 80 to 90% of the time, they come through emails. And what do they say in the email? 4 days, 3 nights in Boracay Islands. Would you take and double click this email? 4 days, 3 nights in Boracay. Wow. I would double click because I haven't been to Boracay for many years. I would double click with saying, Sige, let's do it. So what happens if you double click that email? It is an unknown email and they send this email into your environment. Your production environment is completely unaware. And these ransomware can be silent for 60 to 90 days. So whatever storage technology that you use, whether you use CDP, whether you use backup, whether you use great technologies today, 90 days of silence from ransomware, nobody has an idea that there is ransomware, right? Nothing against any technology, right? Including Cohesity, including any different companies, 90 days of silence. So the ransomware can come and be silent, and then it can impact your production application. It can start a bug on Oracle. It can start a bug on your laptop and then percolate inside your environment. So most of the network tools have no idea. And then slowly it goes and impacts your production application. It also impacts your storage. It impacts your backup. And that is how ransomware can get access to your environment, right? How does the how does the COVID enter your body? It goes through your nose, goes all the way into the chest, and it can expand through the alveoli and then completely infect the environment. And that is how you breach the security of the human body. It is not through hands and legs that they enter. And that is exactly what ransomware does. Goes through the email, have been absolutely silent, and can impact every single thing. So you need your system, which is backup system, absolutely immutable. If that is the last part of your defense, you need to be absolutely brutal in terms of making sure these are immutable. The first thing that Cohesity does is to make sure that you have an immutable file system. We have absolutely immutable, and we have data lock, which is worm, write once, read many, with multi-factor authentication. The second part of that is we have a unique ability to detect ransomware, to detect using machine-driven analytics, which I'll explain shortly, to look at your backup data, look at your alert, and see that there is ransomware or not. Thirdly, we have a very, very unique pedigree where we can do rapid recovery of your data of 2,000 or 4,000 or 10,000 virtual machines in less than 1 hour. And that rapid recovery is important because the time taken to resolve and back your business, come back to life, is also extremely important. You cannot say, I will close my factory for 2 weeks and then come back after the 3rd week. That's business is done, right? So let's move forward. How does Cohesity helps against ransomware 1.0? So ransomware 1.0, a backup is running and the backup is ending, which is normal. So an infection because of ransomware comes. Cohesity, using our detection technology, which I'll explain to you later, detects that there is ransomware, which is the red line that you see. And we are one of the unique tools that we can detect ransomware. If you don't know if there is ransomware, forget it if you have a technology. So you need to know that there is ransomware, and then you need to investigate, and then you have to do rapid recovery. So Cohesity helps you in terms of discovering that there is ransomware. Cohesity helps you to do rapid recovery of that ransomware that is impacting. So if you look at ransomware 1.0, Cohesity at the heart have data resiliency in our technology. We have full encryption, AES 256. We have fault tolerance, RBAC, auditing, MFA, and anomaly detection. So all of these helps Cohesity against ransomware 1.0. Now, you want to understand what are the different layers making this protection for the protecting against ransomware 1.0. This is still not yet zero trust. I'll talk about zero trust shortly. So we are a 5-layer architecture that helps building the foundation against ransomware. The foundation is a 5-layer architecture, which is preparation, control and restriction, compliance, detection and respond. So the preparation is the platform underneath. We are secure by design. We are absolutely immutable. We have encryption in flight and rest. We have air gap architecture, and we can test recoverability. That is very, very important, ladies and gentlemen. A foundation of building, you cannot change. The only thing you can change is paint the building. You can change different room, but the underneath, you got to have the file system that is brutally ransomware proof. You need an immutable file system that is by design. And then the second layer is control and restriction, where we have multi-factor authentication. We have no service backdoor, and we can join your Active Directory to ensure end-to-end granularity. The third one is the compliance layer, where we certify to all the compliance certification, be it FIPS certification, CCA, SEC 17A4, GDPR, PCI, all of these important certification like SOC. All of these are important to make sure the technology that you roll out, you are absolutely safe, that protects your data. Now, the final two is very unique to Cohesity, where we can detect ransomware and we can respond to ransomware. We have the ability to detect ransomware, and we have the ability to do rapid recovery. What if you have ransomware, and can you restore faster? So what do you need is a last line of defense, right? So what do you need for pre-attack? What do you need for post-attack is something that you look at it. You need a secure backup system. You need data immutability. You need air gap. You need separation of duty. You need alerting. You need security process. All of these you need before an attack. Post-attack, you need to seek and destroy the threat. You need to investigate and audit and recover faster. All of these you need, as with a lot of criticality. So Cohesity, we go through a comprehensive program with hardened OS, regimented operating system, following ISO standard 27001 and NIST framework that you just saw. One of the most important things that I will highlight, whenever you design your data protection platform, you need to make sure that your attack area is very, very less. If you have a large apartment and with a lot of gates, you are losing out on security. If your office building have hundreds of gates that anybody can enter through any gate, that is dangerous. If your office building has just one door and one massive security out there to do the scanning, and that is the only way people can enter and exit, that is the safest approach. Then if you look at your backup environment, if you have a massive amount of deployments of media server, master server, proxy server, you name it, so many different things, that means your attack area is a lot. That means you have more and more proliferation of ransomware, because you have to make sure so many attack areas have to be protected. Simple logic as that. Now, given that Cohesity also has massive amount of certification that you can trustworthy to make sure that whether we are GDPR compliant, Cohesity, PCI DSS, and so on. Now, we also have a third-party study and do end-to-end look at how do you protect against ransomware. We'll be happy to share this with you at a later time. This is an evaluator group study that goes on to say how to protect your data, how to safeguard your data with Cohesity, and how Cohesity helps you across. But the crux of the technology is here. Underneath Cohesity, which I said we are a single layer of protection, which is making sure the attack area is reduced, we have a file system called the SpanFS, which is absolutely immutable with data integrity. One of the key things that we do, we never allow overwrites of data. So what does that mean? What do you mean by there is no overwrite, right? Which I'll explain shortly. When we say there is no overwrite, that means when the data is coming in, The data is written into a storage or a file system or a technology, which you know. It is written into a file system. The data is written, but if some ransomware or a user want to change it, which you can see represented by 4 and 4 dash in my picture, right? We always write to the adjacent block. I repeat, this is your block of data, 1, 2, 3, 4. And when a 4 is overwritten by a ransomware, because ransomware want to change your data or other user want to tamper your data, we will never allow any override. We will only allow the user or the ransomware to write in an adjacent location. So that means your original data is never modified. Your original data is absolutely safe on Cohesity. And this is the foundation of Cohesity, because this allows brutally immutable file system. You need to have a file system that understands the data, that understands no overwrite is allowed, because this is your last line of defense. And I'll just give you an analogy. You go back to your office, if you allow impersonation of somebody to walk through your security, you know what it means. This is exactly what I mean, that your file system should be absolutely immutable, having a single door approach or a single window approach, making sure your data is absolutely safe. Whether you take a clone, whether you do create more copies of that, your data has to be absolutely immutable. Now, additionally, you know, when you go back home, I mean, we are all part of your family. You know, when you have kids or when you have family members at home, you understand how they behave. How do you understand? Because you use your AI. You use your intelligence here to say, how do they behave? Similarly, we are part of your environment when we do the backup. We understand how you do full backup. We understand how you do incremental backup. And if there is a change in pattern, if there is a change in behavior of your Oracle server, of your M365, of your applications, SQL, core banking, anything of that sort, if there is a change in pattern which is unusual, artificial intelligence of Cohesity, which is neural network autoencoder module, will automatically trigger saying that, dear customer, we believe that yesterday's backup was okay. We believe day before backup was okay. We believe 1 week ago your backup was okay. But we today think that you have ransomware because your rate of ingest have rapidly changed. Your backup methodology is the same, but your backup data has incrementally increased abnormally. So we believe that is ransomware, and this is your full backup, this is your incremental backup, and this is your unusual ingest of data. And we believe these are the files that are changed. And we will flag it up on our dashboard to say that go and isolate this VM, isolate this Oracle server, isolate this Active Directory, so that you can take necessary action. You can go to the Cohesity platform and rapidly recover your data, 2000 odd virtual machine in less than 1 hour. That is instant mass recovery, because you need your business up and running like that, right? You cannot restore 1 VM at a time. That is going to take next 1 week, right? Assuming that you do 1 recovery for every 30 minutes, just calculate for 2000 virtual machines, how much time do you need? So we can do rapid recovery in less than 1 hour. Now, Cohesity also provides you air gap flexibility. So we can actually have a network that is fully encrypted, fully deduped and bandwidth friendly, and we can turn on and off only the replication or archive to the cloud when you really want it. So the network is generally off, but when the backup or replication period comes, it automatically brings that network to be on, and the replication happens and then again turns off. Very, very important to have a thought process of a bunker site or a third site or a cloud, which I'll talk about earlier, that gives you an air gap flexibility. And I generally tell my customers, if you have the last $1,000, where do you keep it? Where do you keep it if it is the last $1,000? That is exactly what you want to do with an air gap site, keep the last set of your good data in an air gap site that is completely protected and isolated, and it only needs, it will replicate when it is needed. Otherwise, it is always turned off with data lock and worm and immutability turned on. So one of the key things that we noted with Cohesity is that we are privileged to help customers who are infected by ransomware. Customers such as Skylakes, they went on public, as you can see, they went on to talk, this is a solution for ransomware attack. We had 600 servers and 2,500 PCs. They went on to public website like Gartner to talk about it, to say they had serious impact, but now with Cohesity, they had a smooth recovery and they have still jobs. You can see the last line. Frankly, we still have jobs and functional hospital because we had so much success with Cohesity. We helped them to recover rapidly. And this is something that they went on to talk about. Now, this is interesting to say ransomware 2.0. That means ransomware has evolved from 1.0 to 2.0, where they are started affecting backup environments. So they did not stop. Ransomware 1.0 were all about production data. Ransomware 2.0 is all about backup environment. They went on to destroy backups, and that means you need a better technology. You need a technology that is core, is immutable, right? You need a technology with zero trust ability. That means you have APIs that can talk beyond your own product, because you need to build zero trust. You need to have quorum. That means there is no data god in your environment. What is data god? That means one person having access to everything in your environment. You know, I generally talk to such customers where I say, hey, he is the administrator. Does he have access, he or she have access to everything that you have? In some customers nod their head, yes. And I generally say, be prepared for WikiLeaks, because you never know when human mind goes bad, right? That means they can really take your data and have a merry party outside. That means you need a quorum. You need a group of 3 to say, yes, we edit this. Yes, we make changes, but it should be a group of 3 where 2 is a majority for any decisions. And you need continuous monitoring of this environment, right? Having one person, which we call it as data god, that means is very, very dangerous. So Cohesity combats ransomware 2.0 with data resilience and tamper resilient archive. Now we move forward. This has happened during COVID in 2021. We call this as a lockbit attack, right? We are thankful for Bangkok Airways because they went public with it so that we all learn from it, right? So this customer, right? I mean, they are public entity. That's why I mentioned that. They went on to talk about, hey, not only that I had a first wave, I had a second wave, but I am facing a new wave where they stole my data, right? Somebody stole their data, which is their passenger information. 200 gig of data was exfiltrated. Now look at this. It is not that they don't have network sophistication. It is not that they are bad environment. It is just that the technology of ransomware is going beyond their reach. So you need to be ahead in terms of technology. You need to spend money to protect the data. You need to put a security guy in front of the door to protect your environment. You cannot say, hey, I have a door that will lock and close. That is irrelevant, right? So making sure that ransomware 3.0 is protected against exfiltration. So we understand as a data protection and a data platform that ransomware detection has to be done much, much earlier. And our recovery method is still making sense of rapid recovery. So that makes sense. That means Cohesity, we look at data security and data governance as a whole. Who has access to sensitive data? Where is your sensitive data? How do you prove compliance? How do you know you're not leaking data? We understand this concept and we combine these two to make sure that we can provide a technology that looks at identifying sensitive data, help you with compliance reporting and streamlining, help you with remediate, and help you with AI-based security. And Cohesity's threat defense architecture is at the forefront of that, right? This is the true zero trust model that we want to build. At the core of it, or the heart of it, you have data resiliency. You have access control, role-based access control, quorum, continuous monitoring. These are against ransomware 2.0. How about for 3.0? We added going beyond, right? We have anomaly detection. We have adaptive behavioral analytics. We added data classification. We added near real-time threat detection, all of these being AI-powered. Just think about it. It is beyond a traditional storage play. It is beyond a traditional architecture of security. Cohesity is the last line of defense, which we believe, and we believe we have to do more than the backup. We believe we have to do more than the file services or object services. And that is how the zero trust model has evolved with Cohesity. We plug in with a lot of partnership to make sure that end-to-end SIEM tools, end-to-end your Active Directory, all of these collaborate with Cohesity. It is not one guy who can protect your environment, but it is a complete collaboration and a journey of security that we believe, right? And fundamentally, if email is the cause of the problem, network can't help you, right? But of course, it is important to protect that, right? Some of the best practices that I want to share today is to protect your backup with 3-to-1 architecture. That is not going away. Making sure, I would say beyond 3-to-1, make sure that you have an isolated vault. You want to create a vault in Seminar Island or in Mindanao or wherever you like, go ahead and create that vault, right? The second one is to secure your environment. Make sure that you grant least privileges to personnel based on their duties. Do not create another WikiLeaks of your environment with data God. Third one is know your crown jewels, making sure your critical data assets, you protect them as there is no tomorrow. The fourth one, prepare your organization. Make sure you declare a ransomware attack today, even if there is none, and test your environment. How much is your environment ready for ransomware attack? Ransomware attack, having a DR site is no use, because if your one site is attacked, your DR site is also attacked. But ransomware attack is to make sure both sites are dead. How can you protect and recover back your environment? Is your backup tool can do that? Great, but test it, right? We believe from a backup technology, as a leading provider, there are not many legacy providers who can get up and get you running quickly. So cyber threat defense is serious. Cohesity's threat defense architecture is end-to-end to protect your data against making sure your data is protected against ransomware, operational failures, natural disasters, and tamper-resistant archive, right? Making sure that you build that. You have data resiliency at the heart, access control, detection and analytics. That is part of Cohesity Helios. And Cohesity is a platform. All of these security aspects are complementary. Just pause and repeat again. All the security aspects that you heard from Cohesity are complementary. We are the last line of defense, and this is something that is natively built into Cohesity to build this architecture. We have a quick look at data govern, where we help customers identify sensitive data, address compliance risk, and detect and remediate. We also very recently introduced, I don't want to complete my presentation without talking on Fort Knox. We added a new portfolio or a product, if you may call it, which we believe is a game-changing, where we can take your data from any data center into a Fort Knox, which is a Cohesity-powered cloud. On the back end, it's powered by AWS. And this would take your data from any on-premises to Cohesity Fort Knox, no egress charges, no ingress charges, just to move your data from your on-premises to the cloud, which is Cohesity built. And it is absolutely data isolation and making sure that none of other tools would work. And you can only keep the data and recover the data. There is nothing else. And it is a virtual air gap, and making sure that we help you with complete control and isolation, secure data placement, secure communication, and secure data management. This is Fort Knox as a service, right? If you look at the growing blast of ransomware, we are coming to the end of my session. We have different technologies, as you saw. We can rapidly recover from backup for the ransomware 1.0. For the ransomware 2.0, we have provide isolation and immutability. And for ransomware 3.0, we have converged data security and data governance. So if you look at the blast radius that you see on my screen, Cohesity will help you to minimize as much as possible. We would love to flatten the curve for every single environment, so you don't pay ransom. You don't end up having a challenge on your business, because of we as technology providers, we need to help you to make sure we secure your environment, right? Finally, your data can be anywhere, be it on any hardware, any technology, any cloud, anywhere that you like. It may be Cohesity managed, it may be self-managed or a service provider managed. We want to help you and be part of your journey to help you on the backup, making sure that you have the last line of defense protected and journey with your DR, be it public cloud or your data center. With that, I thank you for your time and attention, and I'll be opening back for any questions that you may have.